Thank you, Daryle, for joining me. I'm really interested learning about your work specifically with AI. I know you also do some work kind of tutoring or supporting students at the intersections of tech and career readiness, and you're also involved with a nonprofit. So, just to start out with, could you share a little bit about your work, some of the projects you're involved in, and then your involvement with Kwai?
Right. So the best way I could describe what I do is I work as a an AI professional for mostly startups where I provide a variety of support in terms of data analysis, AI development. I help with the proof of concept for certain companies that are in need of maybe they have a certain problem they're trying to solve, and they're curious, okay, how can I automate my way out of the problem? So it could be they
Mhm,
have
mhm,
routine or some sort of tedious task that they're trying to solve. Where it's, let's say, for example, I have a bunch of documents that rather than spending hiring somebody to spend hours of time just trying to transcribe the documents into my system, I can probably get an AI that can go in and kind of extract the information that I need and just automatically load it into my systems for me. So I explore a variety of different use cases for my clients in terms of like automation and just trying to make things a bit more streamlined for them. And as
mhm,
part of that, I also do some custom software development for them as well. Could be AI related, could it doesn't have to necessarily be AI related.
mhm.
And then I also do, as you mentioned before, I also do have some work where I do some tutoring and teaching in terms of software development, coding, and also AI to individuals, kids, adults who are interested in trying to get into the field.
So I spent some time kind of just poking around your LinkedIn, and I saw that you've been posting some different, like it looks like kind of a video series. One of
Yeah.
the posts that stood out to me was one that was called "How I Would Have Started My Career If I Had Started in 2025." And I think that contrast is really interesting because I feel like the title implies that the workforce or the kind of career landscape in 2025 looks different than when you started your career. Could you tell me a little bit about, how do you feel like the landscape of work is different now compared to, say, 10 years ago? And how is AI playing a role in that?
Yeah, so 10 years ago, when I started out, wow, back flashbacks. So when I started out,
Mhm.
one of the things I pointed out in the video was that uh uh with how things are now, there's a lot of tools and technologies that kind of that's out there that kind of makes that basically um takes eliminates a lot of the menial kind of tedious work that I used to do as a software developer, like kind of the
Mhm,
mostly
mhm,
around the kind of deploying software to a production environment. And then, even some of the new coding tools like GitHub Copilot or Cursor, some of the
yeah,
new AI no code, low code tools. Like they kind of takes care of some of the menial kind of searching for information that I would used to do as a software developer. Like when there's a problem,
mhm, mhm,
I'd spend hours going on Google trying to look for the information, or even a skill that you really have to get good at as a developer is just going in and trying to find kind of navigating a code base. And sometimes the code base could be
mm, mhm,
thousands of lines of code in length. And trying to be able to navigate the code base to try to find the information you need in order to solve a particular problem. Could be making a minor update to the code base, extending a feature, extending a capability in the software, or fixing a
mhm,
bug. Um, and sometimes you come across cases where you are not sure how to actually solve a problem, and being able to go out and try to
yeah,
look for other people who maybe solve the similar problems that you're struggling with, and then find a solution there. But some of these AI tools kind of help streamline some of that process, makes it easier for you to search for the information you need.
mhm,
So and this is great because it helps you stay in flow, um,
yeah,
and while you're coding, so you can actually be more productive. There's also kind of a double-edged sword in that where, okay, yeah, they're great, and I kind of mentioned that in the post that they're great tools to help you be more productive, but sometimes there's a kind of a case where you can be a bit too reliant on the tools themselves, and you can
Yeah.
some of these development skills can actually can your skills as a developer can actually get impacted by it. So one of the advice I would give
Mm-hmm.
to kind of people who are starting out in the field is use the tools, learn how to use these AI tools, but also kind of look underneath the surface and try to understand how these AI models work. So you can recognize some of the gaps that these tools can't necessarily fill. And at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, you'll be able to when there's a problem, when there's bugs, and because sometimes these AI tools won't always give you the accurate responses. When there's bugs,
Yeah.
you can actually recognize them and you'll be able to fix them rather than spending hours like trying different prompts to try to get it to
Mm-hmm.
work. You'll be able to kind of, oh, this is wrong. I can go in and fix it and you know. Uh, so it should be used more as a kind of assistant, but not as a replacement for the knowledge, um, the skill.
So there are all these opportunities, but on the flip side, to your point, there's a new challenge in making sure that your skills are staying sharp and that you're not becoming over reliant on those tools.
Yeah, yeah. And what are these AI tools are really good at is helping you solve some of the menial code like generating
Mm-hmm.
boilerplate code that so you don't have to spend time looking at tutorials on how to do it. But what it doesn't eliminate altogether is just the being able to a systems thinker, being able to, okay, well, I
Yeah.
have these different systems I'm trying to connect together. Um, how do I need to think about what's the objective I'm trying to solve?
So I feel like a lot of kind of what we're getting at in this conversation is there are a lot of really crucial ways, especially now that AI tools are out here, for young people to really build those core experiences that'll make them stand out. And it kind of it seems like we're leaning away from some of the more traditional kind of learning pathways that happen in things like four-year degree programs, things like that. So can you tell me a little bit about, there's a shift we're seeing towards entrepreneurship and these kind of
Yeah.
self-driven routes. Tell me a little bit about how, like, what your view is and all of that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I noticed over the because I've been doing this work in AI for since 2016, but even maybe a
Hmm.
little bit before that, if we could count some of
Yeah.
my studies that I did in school on machine learning. Um, and one of the things that really surprised me with some of the introduction of tools like ChatGPT, it really
Hmm.
lowered the barrier of entry for many people who had an idea.
Hmm.
Let's say you had, so traditionally, if you had an idea for an app, you'd have to go and try to find, or convince, so try to hire a talented developer to come work
Hmm.
for you, build the idea, or convince them to work with you for equity.
Hmm.
Um, and then oftentimes, and even when you did get somebody, that the whole process of building an app, building a kind of a simple proof of concept could take it was a very expensive process. It's a really expensive
Yeah.
process, a really time
Yeah.
consuming process. So oftentimes it served as a kind of a barrier of entry for many people who had when we have a vision for a product that they think would make a difference or change the world in some way.
Hmm.
But with tools like, there's some of these generative AI tools, some of these no code or low code development tools. And I mean, and then even before then, there were some trends going towards the building tools that'll kind of help these entrepreneurs kind of build their ideas. But with generative AI, these large language models, that kind of development kind of accelerated.
Hmm.
So that we're in that now it's much easier for someone to come in and let's say, hey, I have an idea for an app. I want to create an app that does X, Y, Z. They can use these AI tools to help kind of build a proof of concept of their idea that they can actually get
Hmm.
out in front of a customer. So it's really enabled it to allow more of these entrepreneurs to come out and actually express their ideas in front of other people and actually show a physical product that they can
Hmm.
use that can actually demonstrate the feasibility of their vision. So what I've seen is a lot of these, and I think I mentioned in another video, like the vibe coding trend. You'll see a lot of founders who are are being able to come up with some of these apps, these simple proof of concept apps with just in just a matter of maybe instead of spending months on trying to build a simple prototype, it takes maybe a couple hours because they've able to
Mhm.
use these apps, these models that are trained on kind of the most commonly used software development patterns, and it can quickly
Mhm.
put together a product and put in front of a customer. So I'm seeing a lot of that in terms of kind of entrepreneurship, but also something that I noticed as I was looking at doing some research before this interview is this there are a lot of people who are companies that are interested in AI and want to use
Mm.
it. And
Mhm.
there's a need for people who come in and kind of teach people how to use these AI tools or even
Yeah.
build kind of prompts that can help them solve a lot of the kind of common day-to-day problems that they're trying to solve. So what I've seen is a lot of people who are going out and actually making money out of selling AI prompts that people can use. AI prompts to generate images, um,
That's really interesting.
that they can use for their marketing campaigns for some of the
Mhm.
books and that they write. Like I have an audiobook that I listen to all the time, like an app, and listen to a lot of
Mhm.
audiobooks. And one of the things I noticed, like a lot of these images are like AI generated, and I was like, wow, I
Mm.
can see that. Okay, so they must have gotten somebody who actually can come in and actually spend a lot of time kind of crafting intricate prompts to generate these images to use for the books. So what I'm seeing is a lot of opportunities for not necessarily people who maybe know kind of the inner workings of the technology, but more people who spend enough time kind of playing around with these tools like these image generators or these
Mhm.
AI prompting tools who can actually come in and help a business build prompts that can use to solve their what is my customer trying to solve?
Mm.
So trying to
Mhm.
think about those components and thinking about it more at the system level rather than the kind of the individual coding.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to shift a little into thinking about, you mentioned that you kind of do some tutoring and you support some young people when it comes to like tech literacy and AI. Um, are you noticing any like trends and shifts in the way that the young people you work with are interacting with AI or tech? And
Yeah,
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 just tell me a little
definitely.
bit about that. Yeah.
So one of the things I had a pleasure of doing just a couple of years ago, I had a pleasure of doing a semester program with like a gifted. So basically, it was a school out in Cupertino.
Oh yeah.
So it was a school of
Mhm.
gifted elementary and middle school kids, and I was doing sessions with me and as well as two other coaches. We were doing this as part of a franchise called the Coder School. It's like
Oh yeah.
franchise all over the United States. And one of the things
Mhm.
that surprised me the most was just kind of watching these kids and uh, just seeing how, and it might just be because they're gifted, but just seeing how integrated they were with the technology already, like using like
Mm.
Alexa, like tools like Amazon Alexa, how they were able to kind of quickly to go, oh, I need a. So one of the things I watched them do was like make games with using a programming language called Scratch. It's kind of like a visual drag and drop tool.
Cool.
And one of the things that really surprised me just watching them work is, okay, well, I need to make an image. So I'm just going to go online, go to this website, download the image, and I'm going to like remove the backgrounds, do some of the kind of image
Mhm.
editing that I need so I can actually put it into my game and actually do some of the animation. So it really surprised me how well integrated they were with the technology and they were going in and just like, it was
Yeah.
almost like I'm looking at this like, wow, it's almost like, I'm so it was almost as if they were kind of professionals, like they were kind of
Wow.
early career professionals. They already knew how to navigate this tools and do what they needed to do. And when I was their age, I said,
Mhm.
wow, I couldn't do that. Um,
Yeah.
so that surprised me, and I was also surprised by some of the, and again, that might be because I'm gifted. they're gifted. But
Mm.
I was also
Mhm.
surprised about the level of complexity some of the kids were able to think at. Like I had one student
Wow.
who he was creating a Scratch emulator in Scratch on Scratch program, and I was like, that kind of blew my mind. How
Mhm.
smart and talented some of these kids were, and how they were able to use some of these tools well. So that's one of the things I've been noticing. I also noticed that, a lot of the kids, even then, even though that they're, there's still that level of kind of integration and comfort using you going on the web and using these tools.
Mhm.
There's also a lot of curiosity about, how to build some of the more popular games that they play every day, like
Mm.
Minecraft and,
Mhm.
some of these also popular tools. And um, part of what I try to teach the kids that I work with is kind of having the patience to kind of go in and try to sort through some of the problems, and how to
Yeah.
take, like what I was describing earlier, how to take a problem that you're trying to solve, break it up into smaller pieces, and
Mhm.
kind of methodically kind of figure out how to solve each piece and put them together. I try to
Yeah.
model that for them when I'm teaching them. When we work, so most of my sessions are kind of project based, where we come together with like an idea, an app, some sort of app that they want to create.
Yeah.
Usually it's a game, and then
Mhm.
I break it apart for them, and then we figure out how to um, solve each piece. And I try to model it with them, where sometimes so in the beginning when I first started teaching, it was I would have kind of the problem already solved, and say, okay, well, let me
Mhm.
let me show you how to do this.
Yeah.
We'll do it one step at a time. But later on, as I started being more and more doing more and more teaching, it started to get to a point where, especially because some of the things we were trying to solve were kind of more complex, and I necessarily wouldn't have
Mhm.
time to kind of prep ahead of time. Where I'll just
Yeah.
come in and say, hey, okay, here's this problem we're trying to solve. How do we I'll kind of show them how I solve the problems, how I kind of when I get stuck, how I go about solving problems. I'll look, well, let's try to see, okay, if you
Mhm.
can troubleshoot some of these issues, and um, figure out why our program isn't doing what we want it to do. So I think a
Mhm.
lot of the kids, they kind of benefit from that kind of troubleshooting and trying to the systematic way of kind of thinking of solving a problem, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
it helps them when they're once they graduate and advance to other roles, when they graduate, go to college, or they're pursuing
Mhm.
any other similar subjects in school. So um, yeah, to answer your question, what I'm noticing, like they're more integrated in technology.
Yeah.
But what's changed is that there's still that interest in them. How do I build some of the games or tools that I use every day?
Mhm.
And there's still
Mm.
that kind of
Mhm.
excitement and encouragement I see from the kids, and they really love the kind of opportunity to kind of watch someone who's like more who was many years ahead of them, to kind of show them how to actually to do that, and how to think about
Yeah.
building these systems.
So one question I have, because I'm thinking about specifically the group of students that I work with the most, who are often first gen. A lot of them are in, they're still in like a 2-year program. What are the kinds of experiences that they might be able to look out for to get some of that hands-on kind of experiential learning that you're talking about?
Yeah. So one of the things, so when I was kind of in high school, I had a pleasure of being involved in like my school's robotics team program. I mean,
Mhm.
so that's probably
Mhm.
finding opportunities where you can actually build some technology that could be robotics or some other kind of engineering program at school. I think there was robotics. I think there's also SECME, which I'm even sure that's
Mm.
in California, but yes, some other engineering programs you can be involved with, that can kind of where you can actually get involved in building these tools, or even watch someone
Mhm.
work while looking over their shoulder. That's one way to get involved. Well, two ways to get involved. And I'm trying to think of as another way. I mean, for me, what I started out, so I started technology when I was at a young age.
Mhm.
So I just remembered, hey, I want to learn how to program in computers, and I just I had my mom take me to a store, and I bought like a book on web
Wow.
development, and just like pick up the
Yeah.
book and learned it myself. I mean, so there's that route
Mhm.
if you want to be really independent and just kind of try to start figuring things out yourself.
Mhm.
Um, Another thing that I did, and that might be something that might be maybe you can find it. So I actually did a online program. So when I was in my probably my junior my the summer of my junior year, I actually found I found some opportunity to take some classes online on coding. Um,
Mhm.
and somehow I was able to get credit for it for like high school credit for it. I'm not sure what I
Wow.
did, but just trying to find
Yeah.
opportunities where you can take classes online to kind of learn these skills and kind of get involved and kind of get find projects. Um,
Mhm.
Another thing you could do is,
Mm.
and it's more kind of going more on the deeper end. Like try to get involved in some open source projects, technology.
Mm.
So it could be just and with open source projects, there are a lot of opportunities for you to kind of contribute. It may not necessarily be writing the code, but it could be like, oh, helping people do testing of some of these products that they
Mm.
use
Mhm.
and providing feedback. Because a lot of the open source projects, including some of the nonprofit I'm working with, they need a lot of people who can actually go and help test things,
Mhm.
document some things, kind of be a spokesperson for some of the technologies that they work with. So and then oftentimes it can be also opportunity for young people to actually get some mentoring and guidance and on how to
Mhm.
build those
Yeah.
technologies themselves. Because oftentimes a lot of people who are working on these open source projects are people who are many have many years in the business, and they can come in and provide you some lessons and about some of the things that they've learned and pass that knowledge on to you.
Are there any, like, specific communities, platforms, or learning experiences you'd recommend to kind of put what we were just talking about in practice?
Yeah. So I know one job search community that I'm part of. I'm kind of doing it right now as I'm kind of exploring my role as a kind of freelance consultant. It's called Never
Mhm.
Search Alone. It's like a community of people
Mm.
of people who are professionals that they're going out and they're trying to support themselves in terms of finding new work, finding job opportunities. So that's like kind of a good community to kind of
That's
plug
great.
into in terms of getting support in terms of navigating your career.
Mhm.
And it's free. It's all community driven. And that's the best part about it. One thing that I did that I found was really useful when I was starting out was like you mentioned, just like start have some sort of idea of what are some of the roles you might be that might interest you, and then actually just
Mhm.
go out and I know it could be kind of nerve-wracking to do, especially if you're starting out, but go out and kind of reach out to people on
Yeah.
LinkedIn or other professionals and kind of pick their brain and say, hey, what is it like working as a an accountant for XYZ company? What's your work experience like?
Mhm.
Ask them questions. And then and one of the things you do once you do reach out to someone, you have an informational interview with them. Kind of show that you're
Mhm.
taking the advice that they're giving you. Like follow up with them
Yeah.
after a couple of weeks and say, hey, this is what I did. This is what I'm doing. Kind of build a
That's
relationship with
great.
them. Um,
Yeah.
because what that does is it's also good to do that because let's say if they can see that you're taking some of the advice, they might open doors opportunities for you to kind of
Mhm.
work at their company, or they might know someone who has an opening for the role you're looking for. What that also does is allow you to quickly see and understand what roles are a good fit for you and what roles are not.
Yeah.
So through
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
exploration,
This is where I'm gonna get into my unfortunately, my more pessimistic kinda side of
yeah,
things
yeah,
is we're also seeing, though, that AI can, like you were pointing out, AI can do all of those menial tasks that a lot of junior level professionals are taking on when they first start out work.
yeah,
So when I'm thinking about, what can we do to better prepare the young people who are making that transition soon from learning into career, one big question is what are some of the core skills they can focus on building now that'll make them stay resilient in the age of AI? So if a student had come to you and said, how can I stay relevant in the age of AI?" Specifically thinking about, like, skills and experiences, where might you point them?
Yeah, I would point them to one of the things I point them to do is focus on kind of the people skills. So not just
Mm,
your technical skills. Because one of the things you learn that when you start out as a professional is that, when you start out in your junior year, you're focusing more on kind of growing your technical skills.
mhm,
And then maybe as you start advancing towards your mid-career, your senior roles, you start to realize, okay, well, it's not just like technical skills, but also um my ability to communicate with other people, my ability to
mhm,
work with people, lead teams, negotiate, those kind of soft skills. So what I would encourage some of the early career people to think about is also just they want to think about that even more sooner than rather than later.
mhm,
So
mhm,
think about maximizing your skills on things on your abilities on things that AI can't really do. So AI can like I said, they can do some basic data analysis, some basic
mhm.
um, coding, but what it can't do is it can't talk to a customer, talk to a
Yeah.
stakeholder, and gather requirements from them. Um, it can't be being able to like look beyond kind of just like what people say, but what are they actually saying behind it, and really
Mhm.
understand people and what are some of their motivations, what are some of their um, kind of the non-verbal the nonverbal things, the cues that
Like,
AI
some of
can't
the
really pick up
nuances to
on.
all of
Yeah,
this.
because it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
being able to learn how to actually operate within different levels of a corporate or business environment, being able to speak well, being able
Mhm,
to present your ideas, tell a story. If you're doing a presentation or you're presenting data, being able to tell a story with the data that you're showing.
mhm,
And then you can use these AI tools to kind of help you kind of bolster your statements. Um, so that's one thing I would encourage them to focus on. The other thing I would focus on is kind of more about what I was talking about earlier is, okay, well, be more of a systems thinker. They
mm,
have a good
mhm.
understanding, a breadth of understanding of how different technologies work together, and be able to learn how to kind of piece them together to solve a concrete problem for a customer. Growing your people skills and just being a system thinker, and
Mm,
also just
mhm,
being able to understand what are some of the things that AI can't do, some of the
mhm.
gaps that AI can address, and know how to kind of being the person being the person that can fill those gaps. And that just comes with like
Yeah.
playing time with technology and understanding what it can and can't do.
That's a really, really wonderful response. Thank
Yeah.
you. And I think I would connect it back into what we were saying earlier of, and then when you're a student, seek out those experiences before you even get into the first role.
Yes.
Try and learn about what it looks like to find mentors and to build your social capital and to understand what systems thinking looks like. And I think that was all that I had in terms of questions, but is there anything else you'd like to share before we close?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would just say, to this year, as a great opportunity for people to, express their creativity, like with these AI tools.
Hmm.
There's a level of, and I would encourage people to, because one of the things, as I was preparing for the interview, I was starting to think about all the things that I struggle with in terms of like being an entrepreneur and going out and,
Mm-hmm.
solving some of the problems. And it really made me realize that these introduction of AI, it's allowing it's there's a lot of opportunities to add value, to
Hmm.
solve problems. It's not a question of can you do it? It's more of a question of are you willing to kind of open your mind and kind of think
Mm-hmm.
outside the box and look at opportunities or avenues that may not be obvious.
Yeah.
So I would encourage anyone listening to this video to start to think outside the box, kind of let go of what and this is also good career advice as well.
Mhm.
If you're having problems getting to where where you're trying to get to, take a step back and try to be willing to let go of whatever ideas you think it should be,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
consider that there's another way. There's another way you can actually get to the same place.